Imagine this, a country at the very heart of Europe, a member of the European Union, slowly turning its gaze away from Brussels and looking east instead, to Moscow, to Beijing, and even toward the rising BRICS alliance. Hungary's pivot is more than just a diplomatic quirk. It could be the start of a geopolitical earthquake that reshapes the future of Europe itself. Why would a nation risk its place in the EU, the world's largest trading bloc, just to build ties with powers that directly challenge the West? And what does it mean for NATO, for Europe's stability, and for the global balance of power? The answers are more complicated and more dramatic than most people realize. Hungary officially joined the European Union in 2004, embracing the promise of economic growth, open borders, and stronger political influence. But nearly 2 decades later, things look very different. Under Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, Hungary has positioned itself as the EU's most rebellious member, constantly clashing with Brussels over issues like media freedom, judicial reforms, and migration policy. At the heart of Orbán's stance is a single word: sovereignty. He argues that the EU has gone too far, meddling in Hungary's internal affairs. And, many Hungarians agree. A decade ago, more than 80% of the population supported EU membership. Today, that number has fallen to under 50%. This decline isn't just about politics, it's about identity. Many Hungarians see themselves as defenders of traditional values in a Europe they believe is drifting toward progressive ideals. And while this cultural divide grows, Orbán has started searching for new allies beyond the West. But here's the twist. Hungary's shift isn't just about ideology. It's also about money and survival. Hungary has been steadily strengthening its trade ties with both Russia and China. One of the boldest moves came when it became the first EU country to join China's Belt and Road Initiative, Beijing's trillion-dollar project designed to connect Asia, Europe, and Africa through massive infrastructure investments. For Hungary, the promise is tempting: new roads, railways, technology, and billions in foreign investment. In 2022 alone, Chinese companies poured more than $1 billion into Hungary, especially in transport and energy. But here's the catch. These deals come with strings attached. While they bring immediate economic benefits, they risk tying Hungary's future too closely to Beijing's interests. Critics warn that Hungary may gain growth now, but lose independence later. Still, Orbán insists the pivot makes sense. Why rely solely on Brussels when China offers growth and Russia offers cheap energy? And energy, in particular, may be the key to understanding why Hungary is willing to risk so much. Energy is Hungary's lifeline, and Russia holds the keys. Roughly 85% of Hungary's natural gas still comes from Moscow. Even after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Hungary has continued buying Russian gas, openly defying EU sanctions. Orbán argues that energy security must come first. Without it, Hungary would face economic collapse. From his perspective, Brussels doesn't have a replacement solution. This stance puts Hungary in a difficult position. On one hand, it benefits from EU funds and trade. On the other, it relies almost entirely on Russian pipelines to keep the lights on. It's a delicate balancing act, but one that has already sparked outrage across Europe. And energy isn't the only flashpoint. Hungary's choices are also shaking the foundations of NATO itself. When the EU and NATO rushed to support Ukraine after the Russian invasion, Hungary stood apart. It refused to send weapons, blocked financial aid packages, and even delayed Sweden's bid to join NATO. Orbán claimed these moves were about protecting Hungary's security and avoiding escalation. But many in the West saw something else, a country drifting dangerously close to Moscow's orbit. Speculation swirled. Was Hungary using its veto power as leverage against Brussels? Or was Russia quietly influencing its decisions? Whatever the truth, Hungary's actions sent shockwaves through NATO. And as tensions with the West grew, another powerful player began to take center stage: China. Unlike other EU members, Hungary has embraced China's Belt and Road project wholeheartedly. It calls itself Beijing's closest ally in Europe, and the relationship is paying off, at least in the short term. Billions of dollars in Chinese investments are flowing into Hungary's infrastructure, technology, and even education sectors. Major construction projects, new rail lines, and tech partnerships are making Hungary a crucial bridge between East and West. But critics are sounding alarms. They argue that Hungary is giving away too much sovereignty, trading independence for economic gain. The question is whether Hungary is becoming a key partner in China's global rise, or just another dependency in Beijing's expanding sphere of influence. And while China builds, another alliance waits in the background, an alliance that could reshape the global order itself. BRICS. BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has grown into a powerful alternative to Western-led institutions. In 2022, BRICS nations accounted for 31% of global GDP, surpassing the G7 for the first time. By 2023, the alliance represented nearly half the world's population. Hungary has shown growing interest in aligning itself with BRICS, which offers markets, financing, and energy security outside of traditional Western systems. For Orbán, this is a chance to hedge Hungary's bets. Keep one foot in the EU, but lean toward a rising multipolar world where the West no longer dominates. If Hungary were to formally align with BRICS, it would be a symbolic earthquake, a sign that even inside the EU, loyalty to Western institutions can no longer be taken for granted. But the real danger for Brussels is that Hungary may not be alone. Hungary's defiance has already inspired debate across Europe. In countries like Poland and Italy, skepticism toward the EU is rising. Critics of Brussels see Hungary as proof that resistance is possible and even profitable. If Hungary continues to push eastward, other nations may follow, fracturing the EU's carefully maintained unity. And once cracks begin to form, holding the bloc together becomes far more difficult. The EU was built on shared values and collective strength. But if Hungary's example spreads, the very foundation of European unity could crumble. And that leaves Hungary at a historic crossroads. Hungary now faces two possible futures. In one, it becomes a vital bridge between East and West, leveraging its position to gain influence and prosperity. In the other, it risks isolation, alienated from Brussels while still dependent on powers like Moscow and Beijing. For Orbán, the strategy is clear: sovereignty above all else. For the EU, the challenge is just as clear. How do you handle a member state that openly defies your founding ideals? This isn't just a story about Hungary, it's about the future of Europe, NATO, and the global balance of power. If Hungary continues its pivot east, the ripple effects could reshape the entire international system. So here's the question. Is Hungary a bold pioneer, charting a new course in a multipolar world? Or is it stepping into a trap that could leave it isolated and vulnerable? One thing is certain. Hungary's shift is more than a national story. It's a signal that the rules of global politics are changing. And as these changes unfold, the rest of the world may have no choice but to adapt. Because if Hungary can challenge the West from inside the EU, what happens when others follow? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your comments for more of this deep dive. Thank you for watching.